Welcome to Two Witness Teaching Program. Two Witness, a Bible teaching program to change and transform people. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Let's dive into it.
All right, chapter 17. Oh, I love this story. I was asking Wendy, please let me have this.
This was my chapter.
This was her chapter, but the beginning. But I love it so much, and so she let me do this chapter.
I have to say something though. At the end
I thought I had this chapter.
At the end of chapter 16, we just saw that David is living in Saul's court, playing music, being his armor bearer. But then, at some point, we don't know how long he was there, he goes back to keep his father's sheep. Mm-hmm. And so by the time we get to chapter 17, David is no longer in Saul's court. Mm-hmm. Keep that in mind as you read through this, because you'll hear some interesting things.
All right, chapter 17. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shochoh, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Shochoh and Azekah and Ephesdammim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together, and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. So we got both armies, one on a hill, one on the other hill, and a valley down between, and we're ready for some kind of battle, some kind of fight between them. Verse 4, and there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span, and cubit is like arm's length, I think, which is 1.5 feet, which would make him 9.5 feet tall. And he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. And I looked that up in some commentaries, and they're saying 50 to 70 pounds was the coat of mail that he was carrying around. So he was a big guy, and he was strong, and he could carry a lot of armor. And he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and the target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are you come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me, and to kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him, and kill him, then shall you be our servants, and serve us. Verse 10, And the Philistines said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together. And when Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. All the people feared this big guy that no one on their own in the natural would be able to defeat. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite and Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse. And he had 8 sons. We knew that from before. 7, and the 8th was David. And the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. And the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab, and we've already seen these 3 mentioned in the chapter 16, and Abinadab and Shammah. And David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul. What does that mean? Followed him into battle against the Philistines. But David went and returned from Saul. He was used to play harp for him. He returned to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistine drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. And Jesse said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren, your 3 oldest brothers, an ephah of this parched corn and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren. And carry these 10 cheeses unto the captain of their 1,000, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge, or take an account of their safety or security. Tell me how they're doing, my 3 eldest sons. 19, now Saul and they, and all the men of Israel, were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. 20, and David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with a keeper, and took and went, as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trench, as the host was going forth to battle, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array. They were fighting, and army against army. And David left his carriage, the things that he brought. Jesse had given him things to bring to his brothers. He left them, and David went right out there into where they were fighting to talk with his brothers. He left the things he brought with the keeper, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words what he had said before, challenging anyone from Israel. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. They wouldn't fight him. And the men of Israel said, Have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, Goliath, the king will enrich him with great riches, and give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel, or he would never have to pay tax to the king again. Verse 26, And David said to the men that stood by him, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Who is this guy that he would be able to defy the armies of the living God, the true God? God's on our side. And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. They told him again what the king would surely do for him. Verse 28, So Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto them, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why came you down hither? Okay, why are you coming to see us? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? You left your job back home, and you're coming out just to see this battle. I know your heart, and I know your pride and the naughtiness of your heart. For you're come down to the battle that thou mayst see it. So you're just curious about this battle. You don't want to do your job at home. That's why you're down here among us. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? Or some modern translations say, I haven't done anything wrong. All I did was ask a question. And he turned from him toward another, and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. So David asked again, What happens to the guy that kills Goliath? Told him again. And when the words were heard which David spoke, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. 32, David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth. And he, Goliath, is a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep. And there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine, I love how he has that adjective in front of Philistine, shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. Verse 37, David said, Moreover, the Lord that hath delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. Found here, and Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee. 38, And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of brass upon his head, and he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, or he attempted to go. But, it says here, he had not proved the armor. So David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. And he took his staff, which is like a walking stick. So David's going out to fight Goliath with this walking stick, and he chose 5 smooth stones out of a brook, and he put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had, even a script, which is a little pouch. So he's got a sling and some stones and a stick. And he drew near to the Philistine. Verse 41, and the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went out before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, this is the one that they sent out to me, and he disdained him, or he looked down upon him, he had no respect for him at all. For he was but a youth, and ruddy and fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, am I a dog? Am I just a dog that you're going to chase off with a stick and a slingshot? Give me a break. And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, I will give you thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. And here's David's response. Then said David to the Philistine, you come to me with, number 1, you're coming with a sword, and you're coming with a spear, and you're coming with the shield, 1, 2, 3. But here's what I'm coming to you. And David wasn't considering he's coming with a stick and slingshots. That's not where the strength is. Mm-hmm. I come to you in, and only one, he doesn't list those other things. I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. 46. This day will the Lord deliver you into my hand, and I will smite you. I will kill you, and I will take your head off from you, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and God will get the glory from this. 47, and all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, get this, that David hasted, he hurried, and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. David puts his hand in his bag, took a stone out, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in the forehead, and that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the ground. And David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. David had left what was available to him with Saul. David ran, stood upon the Philistine, and took his own sword, and drew it out of the sheath, and slew him, cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. They started to run away in fear. And the men of Israel and Judah arose. Why? Because they're all encouraged by this. Look at this little guy killed Goliath. Let's go get him. Let's trounce him. And they pursued the Philistines until thou come to the valley, the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way of Shearaim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. Verse 53, and the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. So they chased them all off, killing them, whatever they could get to as they ran, and then they came back and took all of the stuff that they had in their tents where they had been camping. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, and he put his armor in his tent. And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? Now he was told before, but apparently he didn't take much note of it. David was just someone who played harp for him, but he was already told it was Jesse. But he must have forgotten. So he asked Abner, "Where does this kid come from?" And Abner said, "As thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell." And Abner is the king's captain, the general in charge of his army. And the king said, "Inquire thou whose son this stripling is." And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said unto him, "Whose son art thou, thou young man?" And David answered, "I am the son of thy servant Jesse the Bethlehemite." Chapter 18, and at verse 1, "It came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit or bound together with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day," this is David, "and would not let him go home to his father's house anymore." So he wanted him to stay with him, the king. "And Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him and gave it to David, and his garments, even to his sword, and to his bow, and to his girdle." Verse 5, "And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely." He was upright in heart, and he always made good decisions in accomplishing what the king had set for him to do. "And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. And it came to pass, as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistines another time, that the woman came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very wroth. And the saying displeased him, and he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000s, but to me have they ascribed but thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom? And that's what verse 9 says. Saul eyed David, and eyed means he was jealous and suspicious of David from that day forward. All right, we're on verse 10. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand, as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David. And I looked up this word afraid in the Hebrew, and it implies because of David's moral uprightness. Because the Lord was with him and was departed from Saul. Verse 13, Therefore Saul removed him from him and made him captain over 1,000, and he went out and came in before the people. Verse 14, But David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Wherefore when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. He was upright. Saul wasn't. And he knew God was with him, and he was being blessed. Saul was not. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and came in before them. People loved David. And Saul said to David, Behold, my elder daughter, Merab, her will I give to you for wife, only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, Let not mine hand be upon him. I won't kill him, but I figured out a way to get him killed. Let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, Who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? Marrying into the royal family? He said, Who am I? I'm just a shepherd boy from Bethlehem. But it came to pass at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel the Meholathite to wife. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David. So he had another daughter whose heart was set on David. And they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him. How is she going to be a snare? The prize of getting her will get him killed, that the hand of the Philistines might be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. You have a second chance to become my son-in-law, this with Michal, the other daughter that I have, who loves you. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, Commune with David secretly, and say, Behold, the king has delight in you, and all his servants love you. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. He wants you to come into the family. Verse 23, And Saul's servants spake those words into the ears of David. And David said, Seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I'm a poor man, I don't have a place or station in life, I'm not coming from a family you'd think that he'd marry his daughter out to, and I'm lightly esteemed, or I'm contemptible in his eyes. They weren't. And the servants of Saul told him, saying, On this matter spake David. And Saul said, Thus shall you say to David, The king desireth not any dowry. I know your position in life. You don't have money to give me as a gift to have my daughter. But this is what I want from you. 100 foreskins of the Philistines. So I want you to kill 100 Philistines for me to avenge the king's enemies. But Saul thought, this is what Saul really wanted to have happen, to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law, and the days were not expired. So, verse 27, Wherefore David arose and went, he and his men, and slew of the Philistines 200. So, not just the 100, he gives them twice as many of what he asked for. He brought the foreskins, and they gave them in full tally to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul then gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. And Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David. Verse 30, Then the princes of the Philistines went forth to war, and it came to pass after they went forth that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by, or his reputation grew more and more and more. Okay, we're on chapter 19. And Saul spake to Jonathan his son, and to all his servants, that they should kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David. They were close friends. And Jonathan told David, saying, Saul my father seeketh to kill you. Now therefore I pray thee, take heed to thyself unto the morning, and abide in a secret place, and hide thyself. I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I will commune with my father of thee. I will talk to my father about you, and what I see I will tell you. And Jonathan spake good of David unto Saul his father, and said unto him, Let not the king sin against his servant, against David, because he hath not sinned against you, and because his works have been to thee word very good. Verse 5, For he put his life in your hand, and he slew the Philistine, and the Lord wrought a great salvation for all Israel, and you saw it, and you did rejoice. Wherefore then will you sin against innocent blood, to slay David without any cause? He hasn't done anything against you. And Saul hearkened unto the voice of Jonathan, as Saul sware, As the Lord liveth, he shall not be slain. And Jonathan called David, and Jonathan showed him all those things. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as in times past. So, verse 8, And there was war again, and David went out, and fought with the Philistines, and slew them with a great slaughter, and they fled from him. And the evil spirit from the Lord was upon Saul, as he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand, and David played with his hand. And Saul, again, he sought to smite David, even to the wall with the javelin. But he, David, slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. Verse 11, Saul also sent messengers unto David's house to watch him, and to slay him in the morning, to pursue after him. And Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, If thou save not thy life tonight, tomorrow you'll be killed. So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. And Michal took an image and laid it in the bed and put a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster and covered it with a cloth. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, "He's sick. Look, he's still in bed. He's sick. He's lying there. He needs his rest." And Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, "Bring him up to me in the bed that I may slay him." Look, and when the messengers were come in, behold, there was an image in the bed with a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster. And Saul said unto Michal, "Why have you deceived me so, and sent away my enemy, that he is escaped?" And Michal answered Saul, "He said unto me, Let me go, why should I kill thee? Or, let me go, cover up for me, or I'll kill you." So David fled and escaped and came to Samuel to Ramah and told him all that Saul had done to him. David's now gone to Samuel and is telling him how Saul is behaving towards him. And he and Samuel went and dwelt in Naoth. And it was told Saul, saying, "Behold, David is at Naoth in Ramah." And Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, where Samuel was, David was among the prophets and those that were following the prophet. And Samuel standing as appointed over them, the Spirit of God was upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. And when it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. They're stopped in their task, and they prophesy. They're there speaking as the rest of the prophets and their followers. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. And then went he also to Ramah, this is Saul going, and came to the great well that is in Seku. And he asked and said, "Where are Samuel and David?" And one said, "Behold, they be at Naoth in Ramah." And he went thither to Naoth in Ramah, and the Spirit of God was upon him also, and he went on and prophesied until he came to Naoth in Ramah. And he stripped off his clothes also, and this may be just to his underwear, not completely naked, and prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that night, and all the day and that night. Wherefore they say, is Saul also among the prophets? Chapter 20, David fled from Naoth in Ramah, and came and said before Jonathan, "What have I done? What is my iniquity or my sin? And what is my sin before thy father, that he seeks my life, that he wants to kill me?" And he said unto him, "God forbid, thou shalt not die. Behold, my father will do nothing, either great or small, but he will show it to me. He'll tell me I'm his son. I'm the heir to the throne. If my father intends to harm you, he'll let me know. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. If my father intends to kill you sometime, I'll hear about it, I'll tell you." And David sware moreover and said, "Thy father certainly knoweth that I have found grace in your eyes." And he saith, "Let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, there is but a step between me and death." Then said Jonathan unto David, "Whatsoever thy soul desireth, I will even do it for thee." And David said unto Jonathan, "Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king at meat. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field unto the third day at even, in the evening. If thy father at all miss me, then say, David earnestly asked leave of me, that he might run to Bethlehem his city, for there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the family." Verse 7, and he say thus, if he says, "It is well," if your father responds, and he says, "Fine that David went home to his family," thy servant shall have peace. But if he be angry or upset, then be sure that evil is determined by him. Therefore thou shalt deal kindly with thy servant, for thou hast brought thy servant into a covenant of the Lord with thee. Notwithstanding, if there be in me iniquity, slay me thyself. If I've sinned against you or your father, you kill me. Don't deliver me into the hands of your father. For why shouldest thou bring me to thy father? And Jonathan said, "Far be it from thee. For if I knew certainly that evil were determined by my father to come upon thee, then would not I tell it thee? I would. Then said David to Jonathan, Who shall tell me? How am I going to find out? Or what if thy father answereth thee roughly? And Jonathan said unto David, Come, let us go out into the field. And they went out, both of them, into the field. And Jonathan said unto David, O Lord God of Israel, when I have sounded my father about tomorrow any time, or on the third day, and behold, if there be good toward David, and I then send not unto thee, and show it thee. And the Lord do so, and much more to Jonathan. But if it please my father to do thee evil, then I will show it thee, and send you away, that thou mayest go in peace, and the Lord be with thee, as he hath been with my father. And thou shalt not only while yet I live show me the kindness of the Lord, that I die not. But also thou shalt not cut off thy kindness from my house forever. No, not when the Lord hath cut off the enemies of David, every one from the face of the earth. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, Let the Lord even require at the hand of David's enemies. And Jonathan caused David to swear again, because he loved him. For he loved him as he loved his own soul. Then Jonathan said to David, Tomorrow is the new moon, and thou shalt be missed, because thy seat will be empty. And when thou hast stayed 3 days, then thou shalt go down quickly, and come to the place where thou didst hide thyself when the business was in hand. And thou shalt remain by the stone easel. And I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof, and as though I shot at the mark. And behold, I will send a lad, saying, Go, find the arrows. If I expressly say unto the lad, Behold, the arrows are on this side of thee, take them. Then come thou, for there is peace to thee, and no hurt, as the Lord liveth. But if I say this unto the young man, Behold, the arrows are beyond thee, go thy way, for the Lord has sent thee away. And as touching the matter which thou and I have spoken of, behold, the Lord be between thee and me forever. Verse 24, So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, the king sat down to eat meat. The feast is begun, and the king sat upon his seat, as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought, Something hath befallen him, he is not clean, surely he is not clean. Verse 27, It came to pass on the morrow, which was the 2nd day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, Wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to meat, neither yesterday nor today? And Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. And he said, Let me go, I pray thee, for our family hath a sacrifice in the city, and my brother, he hath commanded me to be there. And now, if I found favor in thine eyes, let me get away, I pray thee, to see my brethren. Therefore he cannot come to the king's table. And here's Saul's response. Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan. So now we know, David said, if Saul becomes angry, you'll know he's out to get me still. Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he does speak to him roughly. What if your father answers thee roughly? Mm-hmm. And he does. He rebukes Jonathan. Saul says, Thou son of the perverse, rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thine own confusion, and unto the confusion of thy mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Wherefore now send and fetch him unto me, for he shall surely die. And Jonathan answered Saul his father, and said unto him, Wherefore shall he be slain? What has he done? Saul cast a javelin at Jonathan to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger, and did eat no meat the 2nd day of the month, for he was grieved for David, because his father had done him shame. And it came to pass in the morning that Jonathan went out to the field at the time appointed with David, and he had a little lad with him. And he said unto the lad, Run, find out now the arrows which I shoot. And the lad ran, and he shot an arrow beyond him. And he shot an arrow behind him. And when the lad was come to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried after the lad and said, Is not the arrow beyond thee? So that David would get the signal. And Jonathan cried after the lad, Make speed, haste, stay not. And that's really intended for David. And Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows and came to his master. But the lad knew not anything, only Jonathan and David knew the matter that was really going on. And Jonathan gave his artillery unto his lad, and said unto him, Go, carry them into the city. So even after the signal is given, he sends the young lad away so that it's possible for them to meet up and say their goodbyes. And as soon as the lad was gone, David arose out of the place toward the south, and fell on his face to the ground, and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed one another, and wept one with another, until David exceeded. And Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, for as much as we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, The Lord be between me and thee, and between my seed and thy seed forever. And he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city.
Let's do chapter 21, verse 1. Then came David to Nob to Ahimelech the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David. Why is David coming here? He's a great man. He said to him, Why are you alone, and no man with thee? David said to Ahimelech the priest, The king has commanded me a business, and has said to me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee, and what I have commanded thee, and I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Verse 3, Now therefore, what is under thine hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or whatever there's present. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread under my hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. And David answered the priest and said, Of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days since I came out. The vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common, yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. Verse 6, So the priest gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there but the showbread that was taken from before the Lord, to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord. His name was Doeg, an Edomite, the chiefest of the herdmen that belonged to Saul. Now this is important to remember. This Edomite named Doeg is here seeing this. David said to Ahimelech, Is there not here under thine hand a spear or a sword? I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. Verse 9, the priest said, The sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you slew in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If thou wilt take that, take it, for there is no other save that here. And David said, There is none like that. Give it to me. David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul. And he went to Achish, the king of Gath. 11. The servants of Achish said to him, Is not this David the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? Verse 12, David laid up these words in his heart, and he was sore afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. He changed his behavior before them. He feigned himself. He pretended to be mad in their hands. He scrabbled on the doors of the gate and let spittle fall down upon his beard, pretended to be crazy. Then said Achish unto his servants, Lo, you see the man is mad. Why have you brought him to me? Have I need of this mad man, that you have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? So in chapter 22, David is fleeing from Saul. Verse 1, he escaped to the cave Adullam, and when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thither to him. So David's family comes and joins him. Verse 2, everyone that was in distress, everyone that was in debt, everyone that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him, and he became captain over him, and there were with him about 400 men who claim their loyalties with David. David went from thence to Mizpeh of Moab, and he said to the king of Moab, Let my father and my mother, I pray thee, come forth and be with you, till I know what God will do for me. He brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the hold. And the prophet Gad said unto David, Abide not in the hold, depart, get thee into the land of Judah. David departed, came to the forest of Hereth. When Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men that were with him, verse 7, Saul said to his servants that stood about him, Hear now, ye Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds? He's bribing them. Is David going to do this for you? That all of you have conspired against me. There is none that has showed me that my son has made a league with the son of Jesse. There is none of you that is sorry for me. Talk about self-pity. Or showed to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait as at this day. Well, then answered Doeg the Edomite. Remember him? He was with Ahimelech the priest when David came for bread and a sword. Well, then answered Doeg, which was set over the servants of Saul, and he said, I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to Ahimelech. He inquired of the Lord for him. He gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Then the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, and all his father's house, all the priests that were in Nob, and they came, all of them, to the king. Verse 12, Saul said, Hear now, thou son of Ahitub. And he answered, Here I am, my lord. This is Ahimelech. Saul said to him, Why have you conspired against me, thou and the son of Jesse, and that you have given him bread and a sword? You have inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me, to lie in wait as at this day. So Saul's looking to blame someone. Ahimelech answered the king and said, Who is so faithful among all thy servants as David, which is the king's son-in-law, and goes at thy bidding, and is honorable in all thy house? Did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Be it far from me, let not the king impute anything unto his servant, nor to all the house of my father, for thy servant knew nothing of all this, less or more. Verse 16, the king said, Thou shalt surely die, Ahimelech, thou and all thy father's house. 17, the king said to the footmen that stood about him, Turn and slay the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled, and did not show it to me. But the servants of the king would not put forth their hand to fall upon the priests of the Lord. They're acting with more wisdom than their king. The king said to Doeg, Turn thou and fall upon the priests. And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell upon the priest, slew on that day 85 persons, 85 priests that did wear the linen ephod. And Nob, the city of the priests, smote he with the edge of the sword, both men and women, children and sucklings, oxen and asses, and sheep with the edge of the sword. Verse 20, one of the sons of Ahimelech, named Abiathar, escaped, and he fled after David. And Abiathar showed David that Saul had slain the Lord's priests. David said to Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of thy father's house. Abide thou with me, fear not, for he that seeks my life seeks your life, but with me you shall be in safeguard. So David acting rightly, acting justly, and now he has a priest with him, Abiathar, who is going to pop up here and there as we continue. So chapter 23, David's still running. They told David, saying, Behold, the Philistines fight against Keilah, and they rob the threshing floors. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I go and smite these Philistines? And the Lord said to David, Go and smite the Philistines, and save Keilah. David's men said to him, Behold, we be afraid here in Judah. How much more if we come to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? How many men does he have with him? 400 men going against the Philistines, and they're afraid. Verse 4, David inquired of the Lord again, and the Lord answered and said, Arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into thine hand. So David and his men went to Keilah, fought with the Philistines, and brought away their cattle, and smote them with a great slaughter. So don't forget this, David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. The Lord instructed him to do this. Verse 6, it came to pass when Abiathar, the son of Abimelech, fled to David, to Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand. And remember, this was something the priest used to inquire of God. So now David, he's off with his little rogue band of men who have claimed loyalty to him. He has a priest, he has an ephod, and the Lord is with him. Verse 7, it was told Saul that David was come to Keilah. And Saul said, God has delivered him into my hand, for he is shut in by entering into a town that has gates and bars. Saul called all the people together to war, to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him, and said to Abiathar the priest, Bring hither the ephod. Then said David, O Lord God of Israel, thy servant hath certainly heard that Saul seeks to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? Will Saul come down as thy servant has heard? O Lord God of Israel, I beseech thee, tell thy servant. And the Lord said, He will come down. Verse 12, Then said David, Will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, They will deliver thee up. So verse 13, David and his men, which were about 600, so we see he's got 200 more now. They arose, they departed out of Keilah, went whithersoever they could go. They ran away. It was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, so he forbade to go forth. David abode in the wilderness in strongholds. He remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God delivered him not into his hand. And David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life, and David was in the wilderness of Ziph in a wood. And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David into the wood, and strengthened his hand in God. He said to him, Fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next unto thee, and that also Saul my father knoweth. And they two made a covenant before the Lord, and David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house. Well, then came up the Ziphites to Saul to Gibeah, saying, Does not David hide himself with us in strongholds in the wood? Verse 20, Now therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand. And Saul said, Blessed be ye of the Lord, for ye have compassion on me. Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know, and see his place where his haunt is, who hath seen him there. For it is told me that he deals very subtly, or with cunning. Set therefore, and take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hides himself. Come again to me with certainty, and I will go with you. And it shall come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. They arose, went to Ziph before Saul, but David and his men were in the wilderness of Man, so they were somewhere else now. Saul and his men went to seek him. They told David, wherefore he came down to a rock and abode in the wilderness of Man. When Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Man. Saul went on this side of the mountain, David and his men on that side of the mountain. David made haste to get away for fear of Saul, for Saul and his men compassed David and his men round about to take them. Now, verse 27, there came a messenger to Saul, saying, Haste thee, come, the Philistines have invaded the land. So Saul returned from pursuing David and went against the Philistines. Verse 29 says, From there David went and dwelt in Engedi. Let's see in chapter 24 what happens to Saul next. It came to pass when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of Engedi. Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel. He went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. He came to the sheepcotes by the way where there was a cave. Saul went in to cover his feet. David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. They were already in the cave hiding when Saul comes in to rest. The men of David said to him, Behold the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that you may do to him as it shall seem good to thee. David arose, he cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily, or secretly. He snuck in and cut it off while he was sleeping. He said to his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my master, the king, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. Now he knows the anointing has already been taken away from Saul. The anointing is on him, but he is showing respect to the office of the king.
That's right.
So David stayed, he stopped his servants with these words. He suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. Well, David arose afterward and went out of the cave and cried, My lord, the king. When Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself. What an act of humility and submission toward a man in an office who was actually trying to kill him.
He's respecting the office.
Respecting the office of the king. Verse 9, David said to Saul, Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeks thy hurt? Behold, this day thine eyes have seen, how that the Lord has delivered you today into my hand in the cave. Some bade me kill you, but my eye spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth mine hand against the Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. He's proving his reputation before the king. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of thy robe in my hand. For in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe, and I killed thee not. Know thou and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in mine hand, and I have not sinned against thee. Yet you hunt my soul to take it. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but my hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the proverb of the ancients, Wickedness proceeds from the wicked, but my hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. So David had opportunity to deliver himself, but he chose to seek deliverance from the Lord.
Amen.
Came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking these words to Saul, Saul said, Is this thy voice, my son David? Saul lifted up his voice and wept. And he said to David, Thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And you have showed this day how that you have dwelt well with me. For as much as when the Lord has delivered me into your hand, you killed me not. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord reward thee good, for that thou hast done to me this day. Saul actually blesses David here. And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Here's a great profession. Swear now therefore unto me by the Lord, that you will not cut off my seed after me, and that you will not destroy my name out of my father's house. David sware unto Saul, and Saul went home, And David and his men got them up into the hold. So Saul leaves off pursuing David, at least for a very short time. But the promise that he wanted David to make was that when David becomes king, here's the thing. You know, when someone is a king, generally his son and his sons would accede the throne after him. And if a new king were to come in and take the throne, typically he would kill all of the royalty that was in place before him, lest someone else would come and say, but that throne is mine, and fight him. So, because David is not in Saul's bloodline, he's not officially, by blood, the heir to the throne the way Jonathan would be, he says, I know you're going to be king. Swear to me when you become king, you will not put to death, you will not cut off my seed, my children, or my name out of my father's house. And we see also, that's a covenant David made with Jonathan, is that when David becomes king, he would not kill Jonathan, the rightful heir to the throne according to the bloodline. And so we see David, of course, agreeing to this. It's not his plan that he would kill Saul or any of his family. He's going to let God deliver him. He's going to let God put him on the throne and let God establish him in the kingdom.
So that's not hard for David, since that was his heart all the time.
Right.
I never intended to kill you or your family or take the kingdom away from you by force ever. So you ask me to pledge that to you? No problem. I mean, that's been my heart all along. Now, you see also the way Saul responds to David and admits his sin, but still not a real turnaround in Saul.
Right.
And you'll see that in your own life as you serve God and you're faithful. You'll go on doing what you know is right, and people will wrong you, and they'll even come to you and say, you are right, I'm wrong. I'm sorry I did that, but then they won't change. You'll see that, and it's bizarre. You'll go, what is that? Why was there no real change? They admit, they know that they've done wrong, and they'll admit to it, but it doesn't take effect in them. They don't want to get right with God, really, and serve God. So you'll see these things. I've seen some cases of that in my own life. That's just strange. You feel sad for the person because you know they know what's going on. They even apologize, but they don't get their act straightened out.
And we see here that David doesn't feel confident enough to return back with Saul. He doesn't return back to the court. He doesn't go back to the army serving Saul. He continues to stay in the wilderness separated from Saul.